Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds. It sounds kind of weird, me just saying that intro part, because unfortunately, Caroline is feeling a little under the weather today. So it's just going to be me, Bryce, as your host for today's episode. Caroline should be back for our next episode, but today we are talking all about the Juno Awards. And as you may have heard, Edmonton is hosting the Juno Awards coming up in just a few days when you're hearing this on March 13th. And I know that we actually have a lot of non-Canadian listeners, especially a lot of American listeners to our show. If you're not aware of what the Junos are, basically the Junos celebrate the best in Canadian music. It's a good way to look at it is that it's basically our own version of the Grammys. So today we are, of course, talking all about the Junos, kind of its ties to Edmonton, and some really cool EPL connections to the awards. I'm really excited about today's episode because we have an awesome guest joining us. So joining me on today's episode is an OG friend of the show. I believe she was on maybe our second or third ever episode, and she leads our awesome Capital City Records program here at EPL. Rocky, Mann. Rocky, how's it going today?
It's going great. Getting excited. It's been so busy. This is like the Music Olympics.
Pretty much, yeah. And we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about what EPL is going on, because I don't think a lot of people kind of realize the connection right now with the Junos and EPL and maybe how we're involved. And there's a lot going on in your world. And so I really appreciate you taking time out of your super busy schedule to join me on the show today and chat all things Junos and Canadian music. So when I think of Canadian music and especially local music, I'm like, Rocky's my go-to person, because my mind with music, I've joked about on the show, I don't think goes much past the year 2000. So you're gonna have some great recommendations, I think, for us today.
Well, I mean, the 80s were in style, the 90s came back, the 2000s are next, Bryce. So hey, Avril Lavigne is nominated for several awards, so there's your first comeback.
Exactly. Yeah, I will definitely be maybe talking about her a little bit later on in today's show. But before we get to our Overdue Finds picks, I want to remind everybody, of course, we're in March. And that means for longtime listeners of Overdue Finds that we are in the middle of Overdue Finds March Madness. So for the entire month of March, you can go to our website, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages to vote for your choice to determine the best villain. So you can head to epl.ca/podcast and download your own bracket. Fill it out and share it with us on social media by using the hashtag EPL March Madness. So when we're recording this, Rocky, we've only been doing this for like a day. So normally I'd like to talk about maybe some official results as they come in, but I don't have any official results as we're recording this, so I can't do that. But Rocky, I got to ask you, do you have like a favorite pop culture villain maybe?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Scar from The Lion King, which I haven't watched since I was a child, but that's not the one.
So yeah, Scar was actually in a first round matchup against Lotso Huggenbear from Toy Story 3. You probably, even if you haven't seen the movie, you probably would recognize the character, but I'm pretty sure Scar won that first round matchup and will probably go quite far. So let's move on to our Overdue Finds picks. Rocky, do you have any recommendations for our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So the TV series that I have been recently enjoying, which you can find on Hoopla with your library card, is Hidden. It's a BBC police procedural series. And I love those slow burn kind of crime stuff, which is really about, family bonds and other issues versus the crime itself. But yeah, it's awesome, and a lot of like really strong female leads. And I found it totally gripping. I love that stuff.
Is it a fairly new show or is it an older one?
No, I actually started, it's fairly new. I started watching it during the pandemic and then revisited it not too long ago because I really enjoyed it.
I've mentioned before on the show that kind of for the one thing I do like about those BBC series is like they're like short and to the point. I find a lot of like North American series that it's like, you know, season 1 has 25 episodes and each of them are an hour long, and it gets a little bloated after a while. But BBC shows, it's only like, we're going to give you 2 seasons and there's going to be 10 episodes in total or whatever it is. And they keep it short and to the point.
Totally. Even the slow burn. Even the slow burn is short and to the point. Somehow that works. It happens.
Definitely. Well, nice. I will have to check that out on Hoopla. Is there anything else you've been enjoying?
Yeah. So for movies, I love this movie. I watch it at least once a year. I got it I rented the physical DVD. It's Moonstruck with Cher and Nicolas Cage. Huh? It is I think one of the best classics of all time. And it's kind of the only movie I actually love with Nicolas Cage. But I really love him in that one. And really, in the other ones, I won't go there. But Moonstruck just makes me happy in dark winter days.
Rocky, are you telling me you're not a fan of Con Air? Come on, or Face Off? Classic Cage performances from the late 90s. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned Moonstruck because just a few episodes ago in our Great Romances one, we did talk about Moonstruck very briefly and how it stands the kind of the test of time. Like it still holds up today. I think it came out in like 88 or 89 maybe, but yeah, I'm not a big like romantic comedy fan. I know that's probably comes as a huge shock to you, but Moonstruck I love. I think it's a fantastic movie, and Cher's awesome in it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's beyond romantic comedy. It's another level.
Also, too, I believe you also have maybe a music pick for us this week, which isn't a shock, because when I think music at EPL, you're the first person that comes to mind.
Well, this will tie into all things Junos, but I've been listening to the local bands Bardic Forum and Spanish Flies on Capital City Records, because they're both playing at one of the Juno Fest shows coming up this Friday on the Capital City Records stage at Soho Bar and Grill downtown. And so they're so much fun. Just high energy. Bardic Forum is like this acoustic flamenco, like progressive group. Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes they go into kind of more sort of melodic stuff. They're just a blast. So I highly recommend them. And Spanish Flies, again, high power, psychedelic pop rock band. So you could actually catch them live, and it's just so cool to see local CCR bands, Capital City Records bands in Juno Fest. And yeah, that's one of the events we're doing. So that's why I have been heavy listening to those two groups. And I'm definitely planning on catching them live on Friday. Or sorry, not this Friday, next Friday, March 10th. And there are still tickets.
Yes. The day this episode comes out. So if you're listening to this in the morning in Edmonton, you can go that night and check it out. For my overdue find pick this week, Rocky, I have to ask you a question. Have you seen the movie Babylon? Came out, it's a fairly new movie, came out in the theaters over Christmas.
No, I have not then. I was thinking of something else. I was sick the entire holiday season.
Oh, no.
And only watched movies online at home in my bed.
Very responsible of you. But no, Babylon is my pick this week, is my overdue finds pick this week. It's funny because it's one of my favorite films from last year. I'm excited. It's now in our collection. I actually think this movie was kind of overlooked around Christmas in the theaters, mostly because I think everybody was going to see the new Avatar movie. And the movie, too, kind of gets a little bit of flack because it's like 3 hours long. But let's face it, we've all at home binged like 3-4 episodes of certain TV shows. So, I mean, the notion of sitting and watching a 3-hour movie shouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, for those who aren't aware, aren't familiar with what the movie's about, the movie actually, Babylon, takes place in 1920s Hollywood and follows the rise and fall of different characters in early Hollywood. So this is actually a fictionalized story, but it's definitely inspired by tales from old Hollywood. The movie stars Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Diego Calva, and Tobey Maguire. It actually reminded me quite a bit of Boogie Nights in a weird way, with the multiple storylines and of course the LA setting. It's funny, sad, and everything else in between. So if you're like me and are kind of a big fan of all things Hollywood, you should give this one a watch. Like I said, it's fairly new in our collection, so there is lots of holds on it right now, but those always go quick. So throw your name down if you're interested in checking out Babylon. So actually, you mentioned Capital City Records, and I briefly mentioned it at the very beginning of the show in your introduction. But just in case we have new listeners to the show and maybe some people who aren't familiar with Capital City Records, I think is one of the coolest projects we have going on here at EPL. Can you let listeners know a little bit more about actually what Capital City Records is?
It is what EPL has called, or what kind of like the information professional world calls, a digital public space. And it was the first one we ever did. And that just means it's a community-based, sort of interactive web-based platform with content that's used in an innovative way. In other words, we created our own version of a music platform because that's what Edmonton wanted at the time. And we launched it in 2015. 100 albums were added the very first year through an open submissions call. But since 2015, we've just done so many cool things through CCR. So it's won a couple of awards. We went and traveled to South by Southwest to talk about the importance of ethical digital platforms in the big industry world of Spotify and Apple Music, and why this platform is different. And it was so cool. And there was even some local Edmonton groups playing that year at South by Southwest. So there's sort of that side of things. It really represents a unique moment in the music world because it's a library collection. So every album that gets in there, we pay artists an honorarium for it, just like we pay for other content to add to our collections. But it's almost like validating that, the public values this medium and local content and local art. So it's just this really unique way to support the community and have that space to kind of an equitable space to showcase music. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes artists have recorded their album in their basement, or they maybe have spent $10,000 in a studio. The collection is curated by music industry or music community celebrities, experts, and enthusiasts. So what you're finding in there is quality across the board, regardless of access to, what you might typically need to become popular on some of the other kind of like famous in the other typical ways. Also, there's other things we've partnered with, like music festivals like Kaleidoscope Festival or Up and Downtown, having CCR stages. We put on over a dozen concerts a year, or live music events. Last year, we had a summer series with Snow Valley Ski Resort, and every week we did a local author and Capital City Records artist. So the author was from Capital City Press, and it was just so awesome. We are the first public library to have ever pressed a vinyl record through Capital City Records. So we did that in 2019. It's called Riverside's the Capital City Record. You can Google it. It's awesome. It's like a multi-genre compilation. So just this historical piece. And there's so much else on the platform. You'll find a showcase of like Edmonton music history, the legends, a gig posters archive, videos. So it's just really a place that on the ground with community partners and community members and online, we're able to bring our music arts community together and support it and boost it, which I think benefits everyone. And on the other side, we provide access to music lovers to this content and to the artists through these events. So it's just such a cool full circle moment. people can create music in our recording studios and publish it on the platform and then perform through that community.
Yeah, it's an amazing project, and I mean, longtime listeners, we've talked about Capital City Records on the show, obviously in the past, and it's such a really cool program. And sorry, I just wanted to remind everybody about Capital City Records because it had been a while since you were last on the show. But yeah, I recommend checking it out. I mean, it's totally like I joked around before. I mean, that it was kind of like Netflix for local music, but obviously Spotify is probably a better comparison. So it's just local music, and it's easy to navigate and everything. It looks great. So thanks for that little reminder there.
Oh, I could talk for hours, so I won't though, because this is short. But you can download albums for free with your library card, and anyone in the world can stream. So go ahead, browse, star your favorite tracks, and feel free to email us if you really like something. I always want to know.
Rocky, let's talk a little bit of Junos here. So, of course, there are a number of things EPL has going on to celebrate the Junos. Tell us about some of the things that you're working on here, because, I mean, you'd sent me kind of an email before, and I was looking at it, and I see a lot of stuff on our website right now, what we're doing, and it's quite incredible. So share with our listeners all the stuff that we're doing with them.
We kicked off the Junos last Tuesday evening with a really, really special event. One of the things we wanted to do is provide a special opportunity for artists, managers, agents, labels, music industry and music community supporters, and people who are in the business to get something really unique out of this really amazing moment where Junos are here. So Alan Reid, who's the president and CEO of the Juno Awards, of CARA's, the Canadian Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, of the Canadian Music Hall of Fame and Music Counts, agreed to do a presentation for a really intimate evening where he was going to tell. He told his story. There was a Q&A session, a reception for everybody to mingle with live music with Modern Times, who are also award-winning jazz artists. And it was just so incredible. What a special event, and lots of good feedback and lots of good connections within the music community. So we were really appreciative that Alan came here and supported the local community that way.
I read all about that. I didn't have, unfortunately, an opportunity to go, but it's funny. You talk about Edmonton's hosting the Juno Awards, and I think the last time we hosted it was 2004. So it's been a long time. So it's really cool that he took the time out of his super busy schedule to come and do this with us.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he's so passionate about supporting our emerging artists, tips, tricks, busting myths of the industry. He's just so inspiring and warm and welcoming. He just really makes you feel okay, the industry isn't as scary as everybody thinks, but you still got to work hard if you want to kind of make it. But really depends on what people want. So yeah, it was just such a cool story to hear about his own journey and hear what other people wanted to know. So yeah, what better way to kick off Junos Week with focusing on, the music makers themselves. So that was one thing. And then throughout the week, I don't know if you haven't had a chance to come to the library, come this weekend and check out the digital wall. Our developers have worked so hard to make this incredible Junos application to celebrate. So there's a jukebox, a digital jukebox that you can add tracks of nominees to the playlist and hear them on the wall. They have a really cool interactive display where you can kind of learn some fun historical facts and see some pictures. It's really beautiful, and I know how hard they worked on that to get that ready. So the wall is happening, and then tonight, if you haven't got your ticket, please go to the Juno Fest Capital City Records stage at the Soho Bar and Grill. We're featuring 2 CCR artists that I mentioned before in my picks, Bardic Forum and Spanish Flies. And then Rue is another artist, a soul kind of local hip hop, beautiful music she makes. So check her out. And also Tia G, who is another pop music artist who's incredible. So it's going to be a good night. Tickets are $17.50. Probably still a few left if you hurry. And then what else have we got? Okay. we just made a really big announcement. So EPL was and the Junos host committee for the city has partnered to launch a music in residence program. So a musician in residence, just like EPL's writer in residence, will be starting in 2023. So this is beyond exciting. It's going to offer an opportunity, just like the writer in residence, for musicians in town to book one-on-ones, get some feedback on their work. We're in the process of sort of designing and rolling it out, but please keep an eye out for news because this is really a big deal. We're going to pilot it for a couple years, and I'm just over the moon about this program. It's something we've wanted to do on a mentorship / a way to boost a local artist in that role. So yeah, they'll be working in their studio. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a line, but that's the huge news.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard about it just the other day. I think that's such an amazing idea. I know a lot of other libraries, like obviously we have our writer in residence program here at EPL, and most libraries do kind of have a writer in residence position. And I know other libraries have other in residence positions. Like I think Calgary's got like a historian in residence and a few other things like that. So for us to have a musician in residence is awesome. Like, is the plan to kind of how often would there be somebody be in residence? Would they last, like, would they be in that position for a year or 6 months, or how would that look?
Yeah, so really thinking about it again, it's in kind of early stages. I mean, I think it will align with the typical seasonal life of a musician. So summer up north here is like one giant weekend. It's an explosion of music festivals. People are touring and playing, and like everyone is so busy because you got 2 or 3 months to get it all in before, it starts to get dark and cold, which I think typically becomes the hibernation part of the year where people are writing new music and recording and then releasing in the spring to tour their new albums in the summer as sort of like a very generalist moment. So I think it'll be a sort of, we're going to be introducing them over the summer. So we'll look to take some applications in late spring, early summer, hopefully make an announcement over the summer, do some videos so people can get excited for them to start. And then we'll start in the fall. And then they'll sort of be the lead curator for Capital City Records Open Round and supporting other jury in that selection process. So it is sort of a year from start to end, but they'll be really working 8 months from September to April, kind of along the open submissions process, the writing, the publishing, and then we'll have a big event, I think, when we announce the new collection led by the music in residence. So really just trying to align it with what the life of local music is here. So, and maybe just some other context, like this is a Junos Legacy Project. Every city that hosts the Juno Awards has sort of a bit of a fun to do a legacy project. Some cities do festivals, and Edmonton really wanted to do this to continue to boost the arts community in a impactful way.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea that it was a Junos Legacy Project, and yeah, that floors me almost a little bit because, you have the library and you have the Junos, and a lot of people might not necessarily kind of think that, Junos really align with the library, but why do you think that actually aligns so well?
I mean, it was funny. I've been thinking for a while. We're so accessible. We're such a base for so many groups in the city. So it's really a hub for this content. And the new downtown library, it's just so beautiful with this. I mean, again, kind of like I mentioned, through EPL, whether you have the income to afford booking like a full sort of recording studio session, and then like paying or like understanding how to use Spotify and like publishing there through Capital City Records and EPL studios and equipment and services and classes, you can really like go through the whole cycle of music creation, learning how to create creating it, producing it, publishing it through CCR, performing through CCR. And I think that life of the musician through the support and like the way it's equitably accessible to community makes sense for Junos, because like Alan talked about, Music Counts, his charitable organization, is really about supporting the musician from their emergence to the end. So they give free instruments to students. They've funded the Sarah McLachlan School of Music and groups like iHuman for their studios. Like, they're really passionate about helping, especially young people, create and pursue their creative careers. And I think the library, with all our services online and in person and in our spaces, has that as well. So it is a strange alignment, but really not at all. Like, when they came, I'm like, we could do this and this and this and this, and most of those things are happening, including, there's one more thing I haven't mentioned yet.
Oh, okay.
We are also, if you haven't seen it yet, we're creating a special Junos Legacy collection on Capital City Records. So there you'll be able to find artists who were nominated for the Juno Awards, who won the Juno Awards, or who performed as part of the 2023 Juno celebration. So if you want to get nostalgic on all the amazing stuff that happened this year, and actually in past Junos, so moving forward, it will just become a living Junos collection to celebrate our, really exciting artists who have worked really hard and made some cool stuff. So again, why we relate? It's there. It's all there.
Exactly. I've joked around about this on the show before. I remember like years ago when I first came to the library, I remember somebody mentioning to me library's just books, right? And this is a perfect example of somebody who maybe hasn't been to the library in a while, or if you know of somebody who hasn't, share a lot of this stuff with them, because it's quite incredible, and it kind of goes to show the evolution of libraries as well. And we're way beyond kind of the stages or the years of, you go into the library and you have to be absolutely quiet, and you just get books and that's it. So go and check out our makerspace at the Stanley Milner Library downtown, and check out those recording studios too. They're quite amazing. Rocky, I do have to ask you though, that Juno collection, part of Capital City Records, now will that just feature like local artists, or will it feature like all the nominees?
No, it's really to highlight local artists. I think, it really does go why we're different, why we're not trying to be Spotify, we're not trying to be Apple Music, because it's about local artists. So the artists in the Junos Legacy collection will again follow the same criteria as all the rest. So they're based in Edmonton, from Edmonton, or have made some kind of meaningful, impactful contribution to the music community here, beyond just kind of like regularly touring through Edmonton or playing some gigs here now and then. I think that's just what makes CCR special and of value to artists here, compared to all the other places they could stream. So yeah, it'll be, if you want to know who locally had a connection to the Junos, this is where you're going to be able to find it. And it's kind of cool that way. Otherwise, you got to do a lot of research, because I'll tell you, I got 25 spreadsheets and hours of research to find out who from when and what has those connections from here. So now you don't have to do that yourselves. You can just come to the collection. I like it.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense, just for kind of, especially with what Capital City Press, or Capital City Records, I should say, sorry, is all about. Like, nothing against The Weeknd. The Weeknd is awesome, but, The Weeknd doesn't really need our help in getting people to listen to his music. But, yeah, it is good, though, that people can directly get that local content, and it is highlighted there, really, which is super important.
And I mean, we have, I think, six artists with Edmonton connections that I have Juno nominees, which I know you're going to ask me who I'm rooting for, and I'm rooting for them.
Rooting for all of them. Yeah. You hope they all win.
I do.
So let's talk a little bit about those kind of Juno nominees. I know, like, you have way more knowledge than I do when it comes to Canadian music, especially local music. So through the Juno nominations, have you discovered any new musicians or artists that have really maybe caught your ear?
Yeah. And I know this sounds biased, but like even before I realized, oh, they're from Edmonton, even though they live in Vancouver now, I had so much fun listening to them, and they're definitely one. Because I, like, nothing against like top 40 pop. I'm an indie music person. Like, I love the underground stuff. I love the DIY stuff, and kind of like the underproduced. And not saying these artists are, but that's sort of my personal thing. I appreciate kind of the other styles as well, but I'm just being honest about my bias and my taste. Which is fun. Okay. We've had this conversation before about our taste. It's great. So Rare Americans are Vancouver punks that are from Edmonton, and they are a blast. Like, go watch their videos. They're nominated for Breakthrough Group of the Year, so I'm definitely rooting for them. Also, Ultimata, Adult Alternative Album of the Year nomination, and I remember I was going through Blackbird Music on White Ave, I think it was, and they had this little card of like local records or whatever. And anyway, Ultimata's first album was in there, and in like a paper, it wasn't even a full cardboard sleeve. I was like, oh, what's this? I just kind of Googled it, found a weird video, and I thought it was so good, and I bought it right away, and I listened to it a ton. And since then, I think that was maybe like 2017-ish, they've gone to South by Southwest. They got really big, and now they're being nominated for a Juno Award. And I'm going to, I'm inviting them to the Legacy Collection. So please join Ultimata. Please send us your album. But that's so cool. So I'm definitely rooting for them. Then we got a couple more, like the McDades are a local Celtic band. And they're nominated for Traditional Roots Album of the Year. And like, maybe not my total style, but they're awesome. Like, they're so talented. So for like a folk kind of, Celtic feel, if you like that, like that group is so good. So, and then we got like two more. The Barehead Sisters are being nominated for Traditional Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year. And if you haven't, go watch their videos. They're just like they'll enrapture you. I have not seen them live, but they're just a beautiful group and a beautiful sound, and yeah, pretty exciting.
Are they from Edmonton or Edmonton area?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure from my research. I'm still kind of like confirming a few things. So Barehead Sisters, it's listed and agreed. We've got a group here researching those things, but I think so.
Nice. We'll keep an eye out for them, and hopefully they are from maybe around here, and then we can include them in that Capital City Records Juno collection. That would be awesome.
But I want to know what you're rooting for too.
I was looking through the nominees in the different categories, and I know there were certain categories I was like, I'm not maybe a big jazz person or whatever, but going through the different categories, and the one group that kind of caught my ear, they're not local, but they are also nominated for Breakthrough Group of the Year, is Harm and Ease. They're pretty good. I listened to a couple of their songs, checked out their video on YouTube for their single Cut Me Loose. They're a band that I don't know too much about them. I can't really give you a lot of background information on them, but I really like their sound, and they're a group that I'm definitely going to kind of make a point to go and listen to more of anyway. So they're also up in that competitive best group or best breakthrough group nomination. So Harm and Ease.
Okay, I will definitely have to check that out. I really love like names with kind of puns too, but that's like a classy pun, not like a dad or mom joke style pun. That's a good pun.
So you've kind of touched on this a little bit, Rocky, but who are you going to be rooting for during the ceremony?
I mean, honestly, Bryce, because I've been so busy planning events and like doing all this, I'm not gonna lie, I have had minimal opportunity to listen to groups I'm not familiar with that are nominated outside of local ones. So I'm definitely gonna be rooting Rare Americans, Altamira, and the Bearhead Sisters and Sequoias. Those are the ones I'm rooting for.
No, I like it. Yeah, I guess for me, looking at those kind of nominees, obviously Harm and Ease, who I just mentioned in the Breakthrough Group of the Year category. And it's funny because I don't have any kids, and I have not really listened to this person's music a lot, but I remember when we first got her album in the Capital City Records collection, I was like, oh, that's cool. And it's an artist you mentioned earlier, Beppy, Edmonton children's singer. And yeah, she's up for Children's Album of the Year. So she's based here in Edmonton. I know she's done some programs with us here at the library. So good for Beppy. Hopefully she takes some hardware during the Juno Awards.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't just say that, because to me, that's just a given. Like, come on, Stephanie. Go, yeah. Stephanie.
And then one other, too. And I mean, this artist does not necessarily need our support, but I love a good comeback story. And I'm going to be rooting for Avril Lavigne. She's up for 5 awards, including Artist of the Year, Album of the Year for Love Sucks, and Single of the Year for Bite Me. So, it's really cool to see her make a comeback. I don't remember the last time when she had an album out. I know she had a big tour. So it's hard not to root for Avril Lavigne.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, there's such a nostalgic moment to there, and I know, yeah. And, like, it's really hard for Canadian artists to break out. I could go on, that's a whole other podcast episode, but, like, the barriers for Canadian musicians and crossing the border and breaking out, there's so many. It's so hard, and you need money to get. Yeah. So for a Canadian artist to break out down south as well is really difficult, and it's a big journey, and so she did it. That's huge. That's a lot of work, and a lot definitely deserving of those nominations.
100%. Yeah, I'm personally going to be pulling for her anyway, and I think it's just such a cool award show. And I will also, you mentioned too about how hard it is to like really kind of break through as Canadian artists. You look at a band like Nickelback, who I've made many a joke about Nickelback myself in the past, but at the same time, you have to respect what they've done, and like coming from small town Alberta and selling like hundreds of millions of albums and have toured the world countless times. So it's really cool because they're being inducted into, I believe it's like the Canadian Music Hall of Fame or something like that during the Junos. So yeah,
and
Nickelback.
They're from Alberta, Hannah, Alberta, and
exactly.
Wasn't the Nickelback the lead singer dating like him and Avril have a history for a while, romantic history? It's like all
lead singer Chad Kroeger was married to Avril Lavigne at some point. So there we go. Canadian music royalty right there. All right. So before we wrap things up today, let's do our quick roundtable questions. You've been asked to produce a special Junos tribute to air during the ceremony. What's your theme and who is performing? Caroline really wanted to be here for this episode, but she did in advance email me her response to this question. I thought it was fantastic. So Rocky, Caroline said that she would do a salute to kids. And during this salute to kids, she would have past Juno Children's Album winners like Fred Penner, the Bare Naked Ladies, Raffi, and Anne Murray performing. So I'll be honest, I had no idea that Bare Naked Ladies and Anne Murray have won Junos for children's albums. So hey, if Beppy wins, that's some pretty good company.
Oh my gosh, that is like the sweetest idea I've ever heard. I thought you were going to say they were going to do like performances with their children, or their children were going to do performances of their parents. Would also, I don't know. That would be good too. I just got like warm fuzzies everywhere. I grew up as a kid with those artists, and I didn't know they were Juno Award winners, but I'm not surprised at all. But
yeah,
that sounds incredible.
Yeah, the one I came up with was, and we did an episode on TV theme music a few months back, and my theme would be celebrating Canadian TV theme music. So maybe you could have a band like the Arkells performing the theme music from The Littlest Hobo. That would be really good. Or maybe The Weeknd puts his own spin on the theme from the Raccoons. That would be really popular.
Oh my gosh, I love that show.
That would be a tribute I'd like to see.
Oh, your ideas are so good. I would kill to see that. That would just be so much fun. I love covers too. Like, it's so cool when you see an artist do like a one-off cover of something that you know really, really well. That's just so much fun.
So your tribute could be covers, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So last question of today's episode. This year's Juno host is Simu Liu. Actually, the second year in a row he's going to be hosting the Junos. Rocky, somebody from the Junos comes to you and is like, pitch us some ideas for who could host the 2024 Junos. Who would you recommend?
Okay. They're like kind of wildly different, but I just love when comedians host awards. So I don't know if you've seen the Crave stand-up special with Aisha Brown.
No, not yet.
Yeah, brilliant. I would definitely recommend Aisha. Or I've been watching Shorzy, and I cannot stand Shorzy's voice, which is so opposite of anything like acoustically appealing. You know, like there is no pleasure to listening, which is funny. So that's such a juxtaposition to like the amazing sounds of these. So there's something there that I just think is so funny. But so maybe that's more of a joke one. But yeah, Aisha Brown is awesome. It's so funny, and like I would love to see her do the Junos. What about you?
Nice. For me, I went maybe this is an obvious answer, but he's not traditionally a comedian, but very, very funny still. How about Ryan Reynolds? Like, that would be perfect. And the amount of people who would watch that, Ryan Reynolds, I think, would be a perfect Junos host.
Cool. That's a good, yeah. That would be really
and he's a very proud Canadian as well. So I'm sure, hopefully, I know he's doing like Deadpool 3 right now, but maybe he can make some time and be host next year. That'd be awesome. Cool.
I mean, the person I really, really wanted to say, but like I was so sad because I would have said, so this is going to be like a tribute to her because she's not, she passed away, but Candy Palmater. I would have, and we talked, she came to EPL. She's such a music fan. Like, I'm still like grieving this loss for all of us, but I'll say as like a legacy to Candy, I think she would have been an immaculate. She just was the first person that came to mind, and she was so sweet when she came here and worked with some youth, so that would have been cool.
No, she would have been awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Rocky. Is there anything you want to let people know about before we go? Maybe where they can check out Capital City Records or other projects?
Sure. Yeah, you can check out Capital City Records on capitalcityrecords.ca or on epl.ca under digital content, local music. You'll see it there. And then you can learn about some of the other projects we've done. And don't forget, if you haven't gotten your ticket to see the Capital City Records Juno Fest stage, get it tonight. Go to the Soho. And then don't forget, on Sunday, come to the Junior... Actually, it might be sold out. But stay tuned for the results of the Juno Juniors. And if you're going, have a blast. It sounds like so much fun. And stay tuned for more on the music in residence and the Junos Legacy Collection.
Yeah, lots going on in the world of Edmonton music and EPL. So we, of course, will keep you in the loop as all those details come up. And I'm sure we will definitely be talking all about the musician in residence here over the next few months. So we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure that you're subscribed so you can automatically get new episodes. Please also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love getting reviews, and it also helps new listeners discover the show. And as always, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend about the show. And we'll also have a link to everything that we talked about in today's show notes. We always love to hear from our listeners, so email us at podcast@epl.ca and let us know about any future episode ideas that you may have. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.